Some years ago, in the busy city of Edo, lived a young woman named Adesua. She was beautiful, hard-working, reserved, and well-mannered. But beyond her beauty, it was her character that truly made her stand out. Parents admired her, often using her as an example when advising their children. "Be like Adesua," they would say. "She is respectful, obedient, and God-fearing." Unlike many girls her age who chased after men and wealth, Adesua focused on her faith. She loved the church and never missed a service. In her heart she carried a dream, to marry a good man and build a peaceful home. She had vowed to keep her virginity until marriage. One Sunday afternoon, after church service, Adesua walked home, unaware that her life was about to take a dramatic turn. "Excuse me, beautiful lady," a deep, gentle voice called behind her. She turned around and met the eyes of a young man, handsome, well-dressed, and smiling warmly. "My name is Osazuwa, but you can call me Osas. I'm a medical doctor based abroad," he said with a charming smile. "I saw you at church, and I couldn't help but admire you. There's something special about you." Adesua lowered her gaze shyly. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. "I'd love to be your friend," Osas continued. She hesitated. "But sir, I barely know you," Osas chuckled. "I'm not a monster, Adesua. Besides, every friendship starts somewhere, right?" After a moment of thought, she nodded. "My name is Adesua." "Lovely name," Osas said, his smile widening. "Can I walk you home? I wouldn't want to keep you under this hot sun." There was something about him, his gentle voice, his calm presence, that Adesua couldn't resist. As they walked, they talked and laughed like old friends. From that day, Osas became a constant presence in her life. He accompanied her to church and walked her home afterward. His attention, his kindness, it was everything she had prayed for. One evening, Osas visited her home. Adesua introduced him to her mother. "Mama, this is Osas." Mama Ronki observed him keenly before nodding. "How are you, my son?" "I'm fine, Mama," he replied politely. "And who are you?" she asked, studying him. "I am Osazuwa, a medical doctor based in the UK," he responded with a respectful bow. Their conversation flowed smoothly. That evening, after Osas left, Mama Ronki turned to her daughter. "How did you meet this man?" "Mama, he's just a friend from church," Adesua replied. Mama Ronki smiled. "I like him. He is well-mannered, God-fearing, and looks serious." Adesua couldn't hide her smile. 2 months later, after church service, as they walked home, Osas suddenly stopped and turned to her. "Adesua, I know we haven't known each other for long, but something tells me you are my wife." Her heart skipped a beat. "But I barely know you," she said, confused. "I have prayed about this, and I am convinced. I want to make you my wife," he said firmly. Adesua's mind raced. Could this be real? He was rich, kind, and most importantly, godly. What more could she ask for? With a deep breath, she whispered, "Yes, I will marry you." Osas's face lit up. "You've made me the happiest man alive." He pulled her into a tight hug. Barely 2 weeks later, Osas paid her bride price. Their wedding was small but beautiful. That night, as they lay together, Adesua hesitated. "Osas, it's my first time. I've never done this before." Osas was shocked. "I'm really amazed and happy. A girl your age, this decent, you are special, Adesua." 3 weeks after their wedding, Osas traveled back to the UK. "Don't worry, my love. I will return soon. We will have our white wedding and I'll take you with me," he promised. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Certainly," he assured her. But little did Adesua know, a storm was coming. At first, everything seemed fine. They talked endlessly on the phone. "I miss you so much," she would say. "I miss you too, my love. I'll be back before you know it," he would reply. But as weeks turned into months, something changed. Osas became distant. Calls became rare. When she did reach him, he sounded uninterested. "I'm busy, Adesua. I'll call you back." But he never did. Adesua tried to convince herself that all was well. Maybe he is really busy, she thought. One morning, as she sat on the couch watching TV, a strange wave of nausea hit her. She rushed to the toilet and vomited. "I don't understand what's happening," she murmured, shaking her head. But the sickness worsened. Later that evening, she went to the hospital. After several tests, the doctor returned with a smile. "Congratulations, madam. You are pregnant." Adesua's eyes widened. "Me? Pregnant?" "Yes, you are 3 months along," the doctor confirmed. She could barely contain her excitement. The moment she got home, she grabbed her phone and dialed Osas. The phone rang and rang. When he finally answered, his voice was cold. "What is it?" he asked. "Osas, I'm pregnant. We are going to be parents." Silence. Then, "Okay, take care of yourself." The line went dead. Adesua stared at the phone in disbelief. Why did he end the call like that? Days passed. Weeks turned into months. Osas stopped calling. He ignored her messages. Worried, she confided in her friend Damalola. "Which man in his right senses ignores his pregnant wife?" Damalola asked, frustrated. "I don't know what I did wrong," Adesua said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Stop crying. Maybe he's just busy," Damalola tried to reassure her. But deep inside, Adesua knew something was terribly wrong. At 6 months of pregnancy, she started noticing strange symptoms like weakness, infections, night sweats. Her body felt different. Her mother assured her, "It's just pregnancy. You'll be fine." But she wasn't fine. It became worse. She couldn't eat or do anything. One evening, Damalola saw her condition and insisted they go to the hospital. After a series of tests, the doctor called her in. His face was unreadable, but there was pity in his eyes. "Madam, this is not the end of the world." A chill ran down Adesua's spine. "What do you mean?" the doctor sighed. "You are HIV positive." The room spun. No, that can't be possible," she cried, collapsing to the floor. Damalola rushed in, finding her wailing in agony, and that was the moment Adesu's world shattered into a million pieces. "What did I ever do to Osas to deserve this lifetime punishment?" Adesua cried, her voice choked with despair. Damalola, her closest friend, listened in shock as Adesua recounted the betrayal that shattered her world. "Ah, men are wicked," Damalola exclaimed, wrapping her arms around her friend as tears streamed down Adesua's face. Consumed by anger, Damalola grabbed her phone and dialed Osas's number. "How can you be so cruel?" she shouted when he picked up. "Isn't it bad enough that you married someone's daughter and abandoned her? Now you've infected her with a deadly disease. You are wicked." There was a chilling silence on the other end before Osas finally responded. "Oh, is that it?" "Let her go and treat herself," he replied coldly, ending the call abruptly. Damalola's hands trembled as she stared at the phone. "Can you imagine? He just hung up," she whispered in disbelief. Adesua sat on the floor, her eyes hollow, her soul crushed. "I am finished," she muttered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "What did I do to deserve this? I wasn't wayward. I kept myself. So why?" Days drifted by in a blur. Adesua barely ate, her strength fading away. But in the midst of her agony, a small voice within her whispered, she had to survive, if not for herself, then for the innocent life growing inside her. Determined, Adesua began to take care of herself. She attended antenatal appointments and prepared for her baby's arrival. Finally, the day came. After hours of labor, Adesua gave birth to a baby girl. With tears in her eyes, she named her Osagale, God brings joy. "You're my only source of joy," she whispered, cradling the fragile life in her arms. But joy was fleeting. As little Osagale grew, Adesua noticed her daughter's constant illnesses, rashes, weakness, unending cries. Concerned, she took Osagale to the hospital. The doctor's face was grave. "Madam, I'm sorry. Your daughter is also HIV positive." No, Adesua wailed, clutching her child to her chest. "God, why? Why must an innocent child suffer for sins she did not commit?" Adesua poured all her love into caring for Osagala, providing nourishing food, following every treatment plan, and clinging to hope. But despite her efforts, one fateful day, Osagale breathed her last in her mother's arms. Adesua watched helplessly as her baby slipped away, her tiny body succumbing to the cruel disease. The loss plunged Adesua into darkness. She locked herself away, refusing food and neglecting her medication. The once hopeful girl was now a shadow, consumed by a tormenting void. One night, as she stared into the mirror, her reflection haunted her. A frail, broken woman stared back. "A man gave me this disease," she whispered bitterly. "A man shattered my life. My daughter died for a crime she never committed. If a man did this to me, then men will pay." The next morning, Adesua boarded a bus to a distant town where no one knew her name or her pain. She rented a small, dilapidated room. It didn't matter. She wasn't there to live. She was there for vengeance. That night, Dressed provocatively, lips painted blood red, Adesua transformed into a siren of destruction. As she stood by the roadside, a red car pulled up. "Hello, sweetie," the man called, eyes glinting with lust. Adesua leaned into the window, a cruel smile on her lips. "Do you like what you see?" she purred. The man's eyes roamed her body. "How much for a night?" "Just enough to keep you happy," she replied, sliding into the car without a second thought. And so it began. From street to street, man to man, Adesua lured them in. Married, single, it didn't matter. "I'll take you to Cloud 10, she would whisper, her voice dripping with seduction. But every encounter was laced with the same poison she carried. The pain she had endured now inflicted upon others. Yet as months passed, Adesua's body began to betray her. One night, a violent cough woke her, cold sweat drenching her skin. She sat alone in the dark, her hands trembling, her breath ragged. "What have I done to myself?" she wept, the weight of her actions crushing her. "The void I hope to fill is still empty." By morning, with a heart heavy with regret, Adesua decided to return to Benin City. When her mother saw her, she burst into tears. "My daughter, where have you been?" she cried, embracing the shell of her once vibrant child. Adesua collapsed to the ground, confessing everything, how Osis's betrayal led her down a path of destruction, and how her quest for revenge consumed her soul. Her mother clung to her, weeping. Her father stood silent, stunned by the weight of his daughter's confession. 2 days later, Adesua's fragile body succumbed to the illness that had taken so much from her. Her family buried her in secret, mourning not only her death, but the lives she had destroyed in her rage. Remember, trust is not enough. Before marriage or intimacy, insist on an HIV test, not just blood group or genotype. And to those who live recklessly, married or single, let this be a wake-up call. Discipline yourself before regret becomes your only companion. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Till I come your way next time. Stay blessed.